Robin Slim Show.
Hey, it's Nathan Ives calling. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Nathan? Nathan Ives, documentary maker, and your film is called Somewhere in the Middle, correct?
That is correct.
Cool, cool. How long did it take to do that?
It was fairly short, honestly. It was, it's kind of a contained project. It was, we started in January. We finished sometime mid-September, I think.
Cool, cool. And for anyone that doesn't know, it follows the lives of 5 working artists. Griffin House, Jeff, was it Nishinake?
Nishinake, correct.
Okay, Jasika Nicole, Aaron Tapp, and Dan McCann. And it's great. It's great. It was great too. I love that 2 of them were musicians. Jessica's an actress, and Jeff was like a paper sculptor, which I thought was cool. I'd never seen anything like that. And Dan was a painter.
Yes, correct.
Cool. And how did you connect with them? Did you have them in mind? Like, how did it come about?
The idea originated with Griffin. Griffin did a song for another film I did a few years ago, a Christmas film, and we became sort of friendly. And he was talking one day and telling me a story about he was in New York playing a show at City Winery. It was 300 seats, sold out. Show went really well, and he said, this happens frequently. And a couple came up to him after the show and said, "Oh man, we just love your music, and we just know you're going to make it one day." And Griffin's been doing it for 2 decades, and has been making a living, supporting his family. Owns a house in Nashville. It's his absolutely primary source of income for he and his family. And it got me thinking, what success means as an artist. And so it kind of started there. And so, when I decided to do the documentary, I reached out to Griffin first, and he was gracious enough to come on board. And then Jasika, I had done another film with. Aaron Tapp, I'm friends with Matt Nathanson's tour manager, and Aaron is Matt's longtime guitar player. So that was that connect. And then the director of photography on the film knew Jess Nishinake, and we interviewed Jeff, and then Jeff recommended Dan McCaw, the painter. And so,
wow, what a cool connection between all those guys. I was gonna ask, was there anyone you originally reached out to that didn't do it, or it just sounds like it all came together perfectly?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I actually did 8 interviews and chose those 5. I felt they best told the story I wanted to tell. But the one thing I did I think helped was that I told them, I said, look, I won't make you sign any releases or anything until you see at least a rough version of the film. And I think that helped sway people to go ahead and do it, because they knew that they'd see it before it was out there. And
cool. Cool. And it's just the way you put it together, it went seamlessly. I really felt like it never lost my attention. It was a great piece. And I also love hearing just like none of them really had a backup plan, and just like the lows. I'm talking about the lows of like Jeff saying like he could have like 3 really like okay years and then 1 great one, but the great one he's paying off all the debt from like the okay years. It's like wow, it's like it's a struggle.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things if the project has a strength, I would say it's the honesty and sort of the forthrightness of the participants. I mean, they were all just kind of really open about things. And yeah, I think one of the main things is the income is, 1 year's up, next year's down, 3 years of down, 1 year of way up. It's tough.
Constant grind. I loved hearing Jeff talking about the advice his dad gave him, like be good at one thing, don't spread yourself out. Just find one thing and be amazing at it. It was cool too when he talked about being hired for Game of Thrones for like one of their seasons for like artwork and all. It was awesome.
Yeah. He's done a lot of neat stuff, and his work is just incredible. If you're listening, do yourself a favor and Google Jess Nishinake. Incredible stuff.
Yeah. Do you still stay in contact with those people?
I actually do. That was one of the greatest things about the film. I'm in contact with all 5 of them. I had lunch with Jeff on Saturday. I'm going to see Aaron next week. Yeah.
Nice. And is the film out for the public right now?
It is. We just released on Amazon and iTunes. It'll be on Vudu in mid-December, and it'll just go from there.
Cool. And has it been well received?
It has. It's been very well received, and sales are good. So we're very pleased. It's every week it's gone up a good bit, and it seems like word's getting out and people are enjoying it. So yeah, we're very happy with it.
Nice. Were you gonna ask something? Oh, I thought you were gonna. My bad. Yeah, but like I said, I felt it was very personable. Like it was amazing to watch. What other stuff have you worked on, Nathan?
Yeah, I started writing in 1996 or seven. My writing partner and I sold a script called Dish Dogs, and then, I was early 20s at that point. And I thought, oh, this is great, this is easy, and it took me another 10 years to sell another script. But then in 2012, I directed my first film. I've directed 4 since, and just kind of plugged away at it over the years, and I just love the work, and I love the people I work with, and it's just been a fun ride.
It sounds like you yourself are, excuse the pun, like somewhere in the middle. Like that's why I feel like most people fall into. I think I forget who it was in the beginning said that. Was it Griffin? Saying, the small majority is like the superstar that you see in like all the blockbuster films. Like the majority of entertainers, of artists are what we consider like working class.
Yeah, it was Aaron Tapp actually, but yeah, it was exactly, and I think that's it's so true. I think that's one of the people tend to measure success on are you the Stones, or are you do you have 5 million likes on Facebook? And really, success I think is if you can make a living as an artist, whatever that living is. That's just a success. It's such a hard road.
Even Jasika saying too, like some of the major things she's taken have not been as fulfilling as some of like the smaller stuff, or she's read a script from somebody that like is somebody she used to look up to, but then after seeing the way the character was cast in it, she was like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with this. Like it's cool to see her like stick to to her, what's the word? I don't even, I can't even think of it.
Her guns, stick to her guns.
Stick to her guns.
Yeah.
Like convictions.
No. She does, and Jasika, she's amazing. She's not only a wonderful actor, but a wonderful person. And I think she's at a point in her career. She did Fringe. She was on 5 seasons, I think, of Fringe in the entire run. She's on The Good Doctor a good bit now, and she's at a point in her career where she can really pick and choose those things she wants to do. And I think that is a luxury for her. I think a lot of artists, you got to pay the mortgage or the rent, and you take that job you don't really want to do, but you do it.
It also hit on some great things too, like personal relationships, how like your work obsesses you at some points, like, and it's hard. You gotta make whatever to make your relationships work, and like that was cool to see. And just her though, when she said at one point, she's like, if I could do anything different, I wouldn't be as hard on myself. But I'm thinking in my head, like that may have been what made you as good as you are. Like
that's interesting.
You may need that. Like I think everybody does need to be hard on themselves, I feel.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it's finding that balance of of being hard enough on yourself, but not being so hard on yourself that it that it deteriorates your work.
Yeah,
it's like the name of your film. You got to find somewhere in the middle there.
There's a lot of middle ground.
I think for me too, it's interesting doing the film and listening to these folks talk. It certainly made me think about my own career, and one of the things I've really started doing is going project by project and deciding what success means for that specific project, and then kind of looking overall and looking at what I consider a success. But it's I think that's real important as an artist, particularly if you're just considering going into a artistic field, is really determining up front what is successful for you.
Yeah.
I was laughing too. I read one review, and the guy even like put himself down for being, I forget what he said, but it was just like he said it was too perfect of a documentary. He said, too perfect.
This is too perfect. That's amazing.
It was really good.
I'll take those reviews all day long.
Do you get a lot of bad ones?
We haven't gotten a lot of bad. We've gotten a few that are sort of in the middle, like, oh, he didn't dig deep enough into the artist's lives, or and having done films for a while, I mean, you're always going to get people have given The Godfather a 1 on IMDb. I mean, go figure. I mean, not everybody's going to like every film.
Not digging deep enough. Who was it? Was it Aaron? One of the guys talking about like almost, or was it Griffin? One of them was like at the highest point in their life, and then their wife had a miscarriage, and it was like that's deep. That's as deep as it goes.
Yeah. I kind of thought so as well, but who knows?
I know. God. Wow. What else do you want?
But that was the one I would say was certainly the worst one. Was they were just like, well, it didn't dig deep enough into the artist's lives. And I thought, well, okay, that's.
I feel like
what
they
it
didn't
is.
give the film long enough. I feel like they didn't give it enough of a chance.
Exactly.
If that's what they're saying, like I don't know.
Nathan, it sounds like they wanted you to just like literally
And-
follow that person around on like when they wake up out of bed, make coffee. Like that's what they wanted to see.
And I don't want to like throw everything out there, but also Jeff saying at the end, like the fact that he like sacrificed a relationship and that he'll never have kids and never have grandkids, like that's like a fucking major thing.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, excuse my French,
Yeah.
but no, that's a
Man, I'm with.
major
I'm with you.
thing. Yeah, like that's
I've got two small kids now, and I tell you something. When he said that, it really struck me that, boy, you know, that's giving up a lot for your art. Because for all of us who have a family, have kids, you just kind of know the value of that, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. I also liked hearing too, like they all basically came from like your typical upbringing. Like dad worked for like the government or whatever. Mom was a homemaker type of thing. Like they all came from like these typical upbringings where they did something different.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me too. I was expecting to find at least a couple of them, or even more, to have a parent who was either an artist or who was an art teacher or a music teacher or something like that. But no, as you say, they were government workers, and one of them owned Jeff's dad owned a company that built aircraft gauges. It's like they're just these basic regular jobs, if you will, and out springs these artists.
Yeah, Dan as well. We haven't mentioned him much, but I loved him. I loved his work. It was very cool, very kind of like looking through a blurry window or something, like his artwork.
Yeah, his art is amazing, and in fact, I bought one of his paintings for my wife's 40th birthday.
That's cool.
I really just loved his work, and she did as well. And he's 76 now, I guess Dan is, and talk about perspective. Having been a working artist his entire life, I mean, it's a lot of perspective. I think he just had a lot of really good moments of things that you kind of go, yeah. And it was, I think, for me with Dan, it was as much about life as it was about art in some ways, and that was something that I didn't expect, and kind of was thrilled to find.
Especially somebody like that's seen all the change from like the media and social media and all that. Like that's you got to adjust. You got to constantly be adjusting.
Yeah, and and I think he said too, and it's in the I think it's one of the lines in the trailer. He says, he said, in the end, we're only what we've allowed ourselves to be. And again, it's just that line has sat with me since he said it. I remember in the interview, I thinking, man, that's says a lot in a little.
And it speaks to everybody. I've we mentioned it before. Just even podcasters. We used to be friendly with a guy who, after I don't know, was it like less than a year, he was ready to call it quits because he wasn't making Howard Stern money. And it's like, dude, you do a 10-minute little podcast, you're never gonna be making Howard Stern money. Come on, man. Like,
right. Find your place.
Yeah, just find that place and do it because you love it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the interviews we did that really always I always remember is with this guy named John Peasy, and he's a comedian, and he's pretty big in the comic world, but he's never made like headliners. He's not on like TV,
Never
but the
did a
dude's
sitcom.
like he's been in it for 30 years, and he's making a living with it, and it's a shame that he's not more well known, because I honestly thought he was like funnier than Jeff Dunham, and he does like similar comedy. He's got the puppets and stuff like that. But
and I think he also told us like at the point he's at, he doesn't ever think he's gonna see that like huge fame, but he's fine doing what he does.
Yeah. He was always he had told us like, the guys that make it big, they just get lucky. You got to get lucky on some, like, you post a YouTube video and bam, you blow up, but not everybody has a lucky day.
I often wonder about that, what it is, that separates, it's like Matt Nathanson, who's Aaron Tappas, his guitar player for a long time, and he's, I look at like somebody like Matt, who's, had a very successful career and tours, he toured with ROA last summer, and, he does big tours, and we saw him at the Greek here in Los Angeles, and, what's the difference between somebody like Matt Nathanson and Griffin House? And I as far as I'm concerned, I think the big difference is, Matt Nathanson had one big hit in 2007, and it was a monster. And he's been, riding on the success of that to a certain extent since then. And Griffin House just never had that one big hit that kind of launched him. And that's it has to be frustrating in some ways to be in that position where you are somewhere in the middle, and you think, man, if I just had that one thing, I'd be making millions instead of 50 grand a year or whatever it is.
Right.
And if you could have gotten that one thing, you would have had it. Like, it's crazy. It's not that you haven't tried. It's just like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what makes that one moment?
I wonder, do you think the people who make that one moment that they have to work harder or work less? Once you're already big,
I think they have to. I think there's a lot more pressure. I don't know Matt personally. I'm good friends with his tour manager and now with Aaron. But from what I know from talking to them, I mean, Matt's just a workhorse, and he just, he has a family. He's got a house up in San Francisco, and I think that when you have that success, you have that lifestyle creep where you used to live in an apartment and now you have a pretty sizable mortgage and so forth, and so there's a lot of pressure to make money, and I think it's become harder and harder to make money as a musician because everybody's streaming music. You no longer sell CDs or albums and so forth, and there's no real money in downloads. The licensing of music has gone way down in TV and film, and so really it's about touring and merch, and I think there's a lot of pressure with that.
I like too in the documentary too. You even hit on I think it was towards the end, like how they take care of their taxes and stuff. Like the one was it Aaron talking about the one time he did it on his own and he didn't love it that much, but then he got he went to an H&R Block the next year and he said that was even worse. Like they screwed up so majorly. Like they talk about actually having to have an accountant that specialized in what they did. And that.
Yeah, that was Aaron. That was Aaron, and something else along those lines. Aaron said, he said people often forget that a lot of being an artist is not the art you're doing. It's being your own personal assistant, your own accountant, your own for a certain amount of time, and so forth and so on. And it's just marketing yourself, all these things that aren't the work you set out to do, but kind of have to be done by somebody.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear somebody say that. Yeah, I feel like that's something. And was it him or was it him that in his college class? And who did he have come in? One of the major artists. Yeah. What he said to him was great.
His name is completely escaping me at the moment. The horn player from the '70s who was just on every album, every jazz album, every light pop album, and that was again a big moment.
Yeah. I forget exactly word for word, but it was just make sure you always do something for yourself, because I woke up in my 30s after all this success and just was such an incomplete, broken person. It was wow.
Yeah. Apparently this guy got started when he was 16, playing, getting hired to do gigs and stuff like that. And he said, I woke up when I was 30, and exactly what you said, I was just a very incomplete person. Again, just, speaks volumes. You're whoa.
That's why, sometimes I think maybe it's better to start later. Start when you're older, because you already been through some stuff, and you kind of know how things work. I don't know.
I think so, and I think it takes somebody like Justin Bieber or somebody like that who say what you will about Justin Bieber, whatever, but imagine having that much success at 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever he is.
Yeah.
Man, that's got to be a tough thing, because boy, if you'd have given me $1 million when I was 19, I'd have blown it in 6 months. And it would have been it's just, I think we have so little perspective at that age, and it completely warps your reality to be that successful. And for what the limited moderate successes I've had, I am grateful they've come later in life. I just it's a different thing when you have a family and these things. It's not it doesn't hold the same prestige it would have when I was 20.
Exactly.
Nathan, I'm curious. So the way you're talking about the documentaries you do, it sounds like you really learn a lot from doing a documentary. Am I correct to say that?
I did. This is my first doc. The other stuff I've done has been narrative. I just came off a horror film, The Basement, and I was hired to co-write and co-direct that. And it was a great experience. I hadn't done any horror, learned a lot. It was a pretty long and arduous shoot and post production. It's about 2 years, I guess, in all. And I kind of came off of that, and I was pretty burned out and tired. And I thought, I'd like to have a small project, much smaller in scope, that is, much more personal to me. And that's when I decided to do this. And it's a completely different animal than a narrative. But I definitely learned a lot, and I'm so grateful for the wisdom that the five imparted on me, and I hope other folks can watch it and get some of that as well.
Cool. And I wanted to ask you too, Nathan, what is a New York Christmas?
Sure. Did that in 2016, I think, and I have to say I kind of missed the mark on that. I was trying to do kind of a I wouldn't say Love Actually is such a it's such a great and amazing film, but I think I was trying to mimic that on a much smaller scale and budget. And I sort of missed the mark on it. I'm proud of the accomplishment. I think it's a enjoyable film. Looking back, like with so many things that artists do, you kind of go, boy, I wish I'd done this and that other thing. But no, for what it is, I'm proud of it. And it's a solid project, I think.
Cool. That's why I stopped listening to our show, because I was like, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I say that at that point? Like,
right. Why didn't I ask this question?
Yeah. Why did I have trouble thinking of that word? Like,
Why am I keeping Slim around? What am I doing?
Why is Slim still here?
Good touch.
Goddamn, Nathan, it's been a blast. Do you have any other upcoming projects you could tell us about, or are you just chilling right now?
No. I've got a couple. I tend to try to, when one's ending, go ahead and start up the next one. I've got, so I'm going to do a documentary about parents with their first kid. So I'm interviewing parents who have their first child, and that child is somewhere between 8 months and a year. And just to really dig into what it means to have kids and, the changes to your relationship and your sex life and your body and, and social media mom shaming and all, just really dig into it. It's something that interests me, having 2 young kids, and I think it's also something that just, there isn't really anything out there for expecting parents to watch that really gets into the nitty gritty of having kids and what that means for your life, and for good and for difficult. So I've got that. I'll start shooting that in the next probably month or so, just shooting the interviews, and then I've got a film that looks like will go next spring. It's based loosely on Tender Mercies and Robert Duvall back in '72 or whatever that was, and also Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges that he won the Oscar for. So it's a coming of age story of this musician, except instead of being an old guy who's sort of trying to reinvigorate their career, my protagonist is a 25-year-old girl, Americana musician who's kind of traveling around, tough childhood, alcoholic, and just trying to make her way. So super excited about that project as well.
Cool. Going back to being a parent, I just remember some of the best advice I got was my aunt and one of my neighbors once. I said, does it ever get any better? And they both said no. Does it ever get any easier? And they said no. And I was like, thank you. That's good to hear. Like, I don't want to get my hopes up and think like everything's going to be perfect someday. The one said, yeah, no, the problems are just bigger and more expensive the older they get. Like, I'm like, okay. Like, yeah. I know I'm in for that.
It's funny, before I had kids, a buddy of mine who has 5 kids said, you know what? He said, the thing you don't realize about having kids is that from the day they're born, you will never stop worrying. He said, when they're young, you worry about their physical safety and that everything's okay. When they get in school, you worry about their education. He said, when they're 40, you worry about what they're doing with their lives. He said, it just never stops.
It's always constant.
Like, wow.
Wow. And it's crazy, too, like, how different they are. Like, I heard you say you had 2, I have 3 sons, and just the different ways they handle things. And it's weird. I don't know, like, some of them have, like, different aspects of me, too. Like, it's like one of them is a serious... that seriousness that I have. One of them is just the craziness that I have. One of them is like a combination of both. Like it's cool. It's
like
cool
your
and it's
personalities
crazy.
have split into little children.
Into like different pieces. little versions of me. And you're training your replacements. Like, and hopefully, like I've told them that too. Like when they've said, what they want to do, and I'm like, I just want you to be better than me. That's all I want for you guys.
Yeah, you do. You really do. You just want them to. You hope they take the good parts of you and make better choices around some of the other parts.
Yeah. But then you realize they were perfect, and you've made them imperfect. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, like, all the mistakes we're gonna make, right?
I love too, and just thinking back to on that aspect, Bill Burr saying on his last comedy special, like, about how he's tried to hide his psychosis from his daughter, but she's figuring it out. She's figuring it out, like, more and more. He says he could see the look in her face where it's like, maybe this guy doesn't have it all together.
Yeah, kids are very smart. I've noticed. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old and then a third on the way. My 2.5-year-old, he knows a lot more than I'd like for him to know, honestly.
Yes. Yes, Nathan, but thank you, dude. It's been a blast talking to you. And where can everybody find you? And where can everybody find the documentary?
Absolutely. It's on Amazon. You can purchase it on Amazon, iTunes. It'll be on Vudu in December. Please watch the film if you like it, or if you don't, for that matter. Please leave a review. Would be great. Really helps sort of get the film out there and helps with sales. And I so appreciate you guys. It's been a great interview, and really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. We appreciate you, my friend. And it is somewhere in the middle, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. We will when all this goes up on like our podcast site and the individual interview on YouTube, I will email them to you.
Yes, please do. That would be great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Nathan.